So I'm here with Shay right now. Shay, how you doing today?
I am doing well. Just wrapped up one of the 10 About Town live shots. Now I'm waiting until 7 o'clock to go record a topical and then go to dinner and then come back and anchor.
So I'm super excited to meet the team, officially
Yeah.
meeting Shea Smith. So to start off, just tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so let's see. So I'm from Western Oklahoma. It's actually called Clinton, which is ironic because every time I see Clinton, Tennessee, it reminds me of home. But a small town in Western Oklahoma. My grandpa and my dad, a little bit part-time into farming. My dad is also an attorney, but once he retired, he got into farming because that's what my grandpa did his whole life. And then my mom also from that area, and she is also retired, but she's a school counselor. But so I'm from Clinton, like I said, small town. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma in Norman.
We all
Boomer
know.
Sooner,
We all know in the
Boomer Sooner.
newsroom.
And then my first job, which a lot of people don't know this, was actually at the Today Show in New York City. So right after I graduated college, I moved to New York. I worked at the Today Show for a little over a year, and then I ended up moving back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and getting into local news. So I started out as a producer. So behind the scenes, and I did that for about 2 years. And then eventually I kind of was like, all right, if I'm going to be working this hard, like I at least want to be on camera. And also I missed meeting people and telling people stories. It's just a lot different producing because when you're a producer, you're writing like 30-second pacers, like city council is meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. Here's the agenda, and that's it. But when you're a reporter, as you know, you are meeting people and you are writing like their story and you can make it what you want. So after 2 years, I worked with my news director at that time to get on air. I was working like 12-hour shifts because I would come in early. I would practice my on-air presence and writing and stuff like that, hair and makeup, and then I would produce the 10 p.m. show. So eventually I went to him and I was like, okay, put me on air. And he was like, okay, how about tomorrow? And so the next day I got on air, and then the rest is kind of history. I worked as an MSJ for 2 years before I came here. And I've been here for a little over 2 years now.
What a story.
Yeah.
And so I know you just also mentioned your family background. How did you even get into journalism? Why did you want to get into journalism?
So like most people who work in news, I was a theater kid. So
There we go.
I was in plays and musicals. There is a very, very humiliating picture of me floating around out there of me dressed up as Thing One because I was in Horton
Seussical.
Yes.
I was in Seussical.
I was in like Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who, and I was one of the things, and I was also probably like almost early high school, like a little too old to be a thing, I think.
Just a
And so
little.
there's like a very embarrassing photo of me out there somewhere. But I loved just being in front of people and memorizing lines and just acting and being just theatric. I loved it. So I wanted to do that. And then my mom eventually was kind of like, why don't we find something that's a little more promising?
No thanks.
Yeah, and she's like, have you ever thought about being a news anchor? Because you could be on TV and you still get to be in front of the camera and kind of in front of people in a way. And so I joined the newspaper staff my junior or senior year of high school, and I wasn't really good at it probably. Like, I was never a huge fan of print writing. But once I got to college and declared my major as journalism with an emphasis in broadcast, I never looked back. I just continued that career path.
Wow. So to start off, I also was a theater kid
Yes.
and was in Seussical. So I get it. It's the pipeline. It's the pipeline
know.
into journalism. But
Yeah.
you said you worked for the Today Show. Why did you decide to come back to East Tennessee?
Well, so I worked for the Today Show, and then I went back to Oklahoma first because that was where I'm from. That was where my whole family was. I was missing them, and I just wanted to be closer to family, I guess. And then also, working in network news is a lot different than working in local. If I would have stayed in network, I probably would have never became an on-air personality or a news anchor. And also, I think it would have taken me a while to get up to an actual producer role, because you start as a researcher assistant, and then like an associate producer, and then a producer. And so it just, some of my mentors told me, why don't you get into local, become a producer immediately, get a few years under your belt, and then you can go back. But I never ended up going back to network, and I ended up going on air, obviously. And so that path kind of changed a little bit.
So what brought you here to East Tennessee?
So my contract was up at my last station, and I was ready to move, actually. I was ready to leave Oklahoma again for some reason. I just kind of had like that itch to explore somewhere, be independent, live somewhere new. And so I looked on Google. I just Googled like TV news markets. And I told myself, okay, I don't want to go anywhere under 100. So I looked at markets 1 through 100. And I just went one by one, the cities I would want to live in and not. So I would just say like Houston, no. Dallas, maybe. Memphis, possibly, but probably not. Savannah, yes. And then I got to Knoxville, and I had been to Nashville one time, but something was really pulling me to Tennessee. I don't know why. I don't know what that was, but for some reason, I was really gravitating towards Tennessee. And so Nashville, yes. Knoxville, yes. And then, of course, like Tampa, yes. Jacksonville, no. Different, like Waco, Texas, no. And so, like I said, I was just really pulled to Tennessee, and I enjoyed Nashville. And I had never been to Knoxville. And again, I had been to Tennessee once. Never been to Knoxville, and I moved here. My first time in Knoxville was me with a U-Haul pod.
Wow.
And my dad in his RV, and I moved here. So that, and I will say too, when I was trying to find where to go next, I really did take into consideration the people I thought that would be there, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't want to go to a certain town or state where I kind of felt like maybe people had the, where people might be like not super receptive to media or not nice. I wanted to find a state and a station and a town that had that Southern hospitality, because especially working in news, it's really hard to go up to people and ask, hey, will you do an interview with me? And, if I was in a state that people weren't super friendly or hospitable, then it would be hard. So that was also kind of what led me here, because I just really felt like Tennesseans are similar to Oklahomans, just have that Southern hospitality and are kind-hearted and helpful. So
it seems like you made the right choice. It feels like you made the right choice. Yeah. What do you love about East Tennessee? I think just the location of it. It's beautiful here, and the people. The location specifically, because you're close to Nashville, Asheville. You can drive to Florida, South Carolina, those beaches in 6-7 hours. I mean, geographically, it's just a good area. And then, as I said, it's beautiful here. I did not grow up around mountains. I grew up around hills that we thought were mountains, but they are not. And the people here are just very nice and welcoming. You just talked a lot about the mountains and this scenery. So for someone just like yourself, before you even moved here, that has never been to East Tennessee, what would you describe East Tennessee as, if you could describe it to someone that has never been here? Beautiful. You get all seasons, so you get all foliage. Fall, beautiful. Winter, especially in the snow, gorgeous. Summer, mild. It's not too hot. The climate's pretty mild across the board. And just good culture, good people. Yeah, I think that's how. So you've been here to see all 4 seasons. Yes. Is there a specific story that has just impacted you? What's a story that you can remember that I guess has changed your life? Yeah. I know that's a tough question. Yeah. I think two come to mind. So one of them, happy, one kind of sad, but one story, I did it maybe a year ago, but it was with the family of a little girl who had been diagnosed with leukemia. Her name was Ellie. And her family were moving to a different home on some land that I think they had inherited, but the mobile home they were moving into needed a new water filter system because Ellie had leukemia. And they were quoted thousands of dollars, and they just didn't have the money. I mean, a lot of people don't have thousands of dollars. So I met the family, we aired their story, and within like 24 hours, they raised, I think, $15,000 on GoFundMe. And then also multiple companies had reached out to them saying, we will install this for completely free. And so a local company installed the filtration for free. They built like a little shed where it would stay for free. I mean, all that was for free. And it showed me, you know, how important local news is. Local news is very different than national news. And I try and tell that to people. You know, we live in the same community as our viewers. Yeah. And so when we come in every morning with story ideas, we are thinking, how can we help viewers? How can we serve the community? What is something that is impacting my neighbor? And that is what we focus on. Another story, I think if anyone has followed my reporting in my time here would obviously, and I'm sure people would not be shocked, the Lester Isbell story. The 74-year-old man who was having a medical and emergency, and he ended up going to the Monroe County Justice Center, and he was strapped into a restraint chair for more than 9 hours, and he ended up passing away. That has been, you know, that story, when I first covered it, obviously to anyone who sees that video of him in the jail cell, it's upsetting. And I talked to a lot of people who said, you know, that's my dad's age. And my dad is close to that age. And so that was a very difficult story to cover, to just have to watch that and see that. And I can't imagine how, you know, his family feels having to watch their loved one kind of go through what he went through. I can't imagine watching my dad or my mom or my grandpa or grandma go through what he did. And so that was really tough for a few months to really grapple with. And having to edit that story, I mean, I had to watch that video over and over and over. And so it was mentally taxing. But I think that those two stories I'll always remember from my time here.
What goes through your head when you have to cover, I know you're covering a story every day, when you have to tackle stories like that, kind of how do you separate yourself and how do you go about telling those types of stories?
I think I just remember why I'm doing this. Like, this family feels like he was let down, and it's a journalist's job to give a voice to the voiceless and to hold people accountable. And Lester died. He doesn't have a voice. His family has a voice. And I can be a part of giving him a voice. And through my job, I can also ask agencies and entities the hard questions and hold them accountable. That's important for all journalists, but especially local journalists to do. You know, even though it might be an uncomfortable story and one side might think that they didn't do anything wrong and another side thinks that they did do something wrong, you get both sides and what they think, you put it together and you put it to the public, and then people who watch it, they can make their own decision whether somebody let someone else down or whether, you know, this entity was in the wrong. And so that is just kind of what goes through my head, is this is my job. I need to just, I don't necessarily know if an advocate is the right word, but I need to do my job and bring it to the people.
Well, you did a phenomenal job doing that and giving him a voice when he didn't have one. But if you weren't a journalist, what would your career be?
I would say, honestly, I think I would be a teacher.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I like being around kids. I grew up with a really big family, so I feel like I was always around kids. And yeah, I think I would be a teacher for younger children, maybe like kindergarten, pre-K, first grade, second grade.
Do you know like a specific age group that you would want to teach?
Probably maybe like second grade and under. High school kids would scare me.
Yeah, me
because
too.
they're just like so ruthless. But I don't know, kids are also like, if they think you're ugly, they'll tell you. They'll be like, "You're ugly, Miss Smith." Like they just so like, I think that age, but yeah.
What subject? English?
No, just whatever,
Yeah.
whichever. Yeah, nothing in particular.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you obviously are a journalist.
Yeah.
What is a journalist that inspires you? Who inspires you to do your job?
So I knew this question was coming. I've thought about it. So I'm going to try and keep it short. I don't know if I can.
We got time.
But multiple. I would start with Ken Fisher. He was one of my professors at OU. Bob Dickey, he was the news director of OU Nightly, which is where, I was first on air and learned what a newscast was. John Schmelzer and Mike Betcher, they were both professors and mentors for me. And I'll never forget in one of John Schmelzer and Mike Betcher's class, I was very new I was trying to figure out what a story was, okay? So I did a story, and it was about some organization on campus putting on a comedy show or something, and this guy won, and basically my story was, this guy won, or no, not the guy won, sorry. I interviewed the guy, and my story was about this guy doing a comedy show, whatever. Well, another girl won, and she was the first girl to ever win this comedy show, and it went over my head. I completely missed it. And so my professor, John, he wrote a little note, and he told me, he was like, "You completely missed the story." And I was like, "You are completely right." So he let me redo the assignment, but I remember when they were passing out our assignments back, he slid it, and he was like, "Speak with me after class." And I knew, I could feel my tears already, preparing in my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, I did not do good, and I did not do good. I flipped it over, and it was awful. And then Mike Betcher, he helped me get my first internship at NBC before I went to the Today Show. All of them have just incredible resumes, but he really pushed me to dream big, I think. And then after that, I would say my mentor, Joy Fallon from MSNBC, and then Gerardo Lopez, one of my news directors. He's the news director that helped me get on air. My assistant news director at that time, Stephanie Hill, I love her. She's like family to me. And then I would say more presently, John North. I'd never done an investigative story, a story to really hold people accountable until I got here. John North has worked in news for decades, first print, and then here at Channel 10. And he has really pushed me and all of us to be better journalists. But I feel like I have grown into the journalist I am here at this station because of him. So definitely I need to give John a shout out too.
I think that's a common thought with all of us at the station. Just so incredible. But if someone was to visit you in East Tennessee, what is one place that you would take them? I know you go to a million restaurants and you're always trying new places, but what's one place that you would take them?
Probably Market Square, just because it's pretty unique to Knoxville. It reminds me of Savannah, Georgia, how they kind of have their little square. I don't know what it's called, but I would say Market Square. And then I've only been 2 or 3 times, but Anakeesta, because it's beautiful, it's so neat, it's fun, and you cannot beat the views.
Okay, so this is my wild card question.
Oh, I'm scared.
I have a few in my head, but I'm trying to think. Okay, this is just a basic one. So as I kind of said before, I'm always looking at your Instagram stories. You're going to a million different restaurants. If you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, one food.
Or type of food. We can do type of food.
Italian.
Okay.
If that will also include macaroni and cheese.
We can include that. I'll let it slide.
If not, then it's probably still Italian, like fettuccine alfredo, lasagna, manicotti. I'm so hungry now.
I was just saying, I was like, I think
watering.
we need to head out. I'm starving. But.
And so probably pasta.
Pasta.
Or steak.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about pasta and steak?
I mean, that would be my dream.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, Shea. That is all I had for you. I'm very happy that I was officially able to meet Shea Smith. But yeah,
oh, thank you for asking me all of these questions.
Of course. And now I really think we should go eat some pasta.
Yeah, let's right now. Justin, can we wrap it up?
Cut.
Can we cut?